And sure enough, man, all these reps I was putting in all this time where I was failing. By the way, Tommy, you're not a failure until you quit, bro. And I refuse to fail. So I'm just going to keep pounding. And now I can officially say I got this crazy vision of 20,000 agents, but now I have a game plan in place and I have all the reps and I'm only going to put more reps in. So I'm only going to get better and better.
Welcome to the Powerful One podcast with your host, Tommy Parker. This college dropout turned entrepreneur and high-performance coach created Powerful One with the mission of sharing the stories of individuals who have divided from conformity and redefined success in their own terms. Join us as we dive into the incredible stories and journeys of becoming truly powerful.
Welcome to the Powerful One podcast. I am your host, Tommy Parker, and today's episode is with special guest Zachery Jones. But before we get into this episode, I just want to say, all I ever ask of you guys, if you can take 2 minutes to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that is what really helps to move the needle in the podcasting industry, and subscribe to the YouTube channel because we also post video clips and the full video content all on YouTube as well. But now, without further ado, I'm welcoming my guest, Zachery Jones. Zach Jones is an entrepreneur and business owner of 20K agents brokered by eXp Realty. Zach currently resides in Northwest Arkansas with his beautiful bride, Brit Jones. Growing up, Zach played football and played collegiate football at UL-Lafayette. He ended up taking his passion and determination from sports into his pursuit as a real estate agent. Within 3 years, him and his business partners grew their sales team to the #1 producers at eXp Realty in the state of Arkansas. He recently sold his equity of his sales business to solely focus on adding value to agents. He is now currently on a mission to positively impact 20,000 agents across the world who currently struggle with getting the most of their career in real estate. And in this episode, we talk about Zach's early childhood, dealing with being shy and insecurities, finding who you truly are, taking his athletic work ethic into business, getting in reps every day. Zach talks about real estate, finding fulfillment, the idea of relationship over religion, getting around the right people. Zach talks about his addictions and how you can break addictions. He talks about the personal contract he has with himself, having clear vision, and finally his life advice for everybody, and so much more. So here it is, guys, episode 50 with Zach Jones.
Powerful One podcast. What is up, everybody? I am joined by my great friend, Zachery Jones. Zach Jones, what's going on, man?
Man, how's it going? I'm just honored to be here, man. It's been great being in alignment with you these last, 3 or 4 months here.
Yeah,
honored to be on the show, man.
No, man, I appreciate you being here. You definitely have an awesome story that I know the listeners are going to really love. So I'd really like to I guess start with, who Zach Jones was, man. Some of the pivotal moments from your childhood that really, helped progress the journey to becoming the powerful one that you are today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So who Zach Jones was, I was a shy kid growing up. I grew up, I would say, in a Christian household that was broken. So it was really taught to me to do this, do that, more religion based, but there was no really great example growing up with that. But so I grew up shy. I was really insecure about a lot of things, and by the grace of God, I mean, he's really carried me throughout. I've always viewed myself being a little different than my peers, my classmates, and really took some time to really grow into who I am today. But man, like I said, by the grace of God, I understand who I am today, not who I was. And today I'm a man of honesty, influence, faithfulness, and self-discipline. And I'm just honored to just be here in 2021 and moving forward.
That's so good, man. I do identity coaching. I do coaching on people's past programming and the person they used to be and really helping them step into the person they are. And what's cool about you, man, is that like you said, you just identified a statement of who you are. You have a strong identity, and with a strong identity fuels everything else, man. It fuels your actions, the caliber and consistency of how you're showing up, your behaviors, your habits. It's just such a powerful thing. Your identity, how you see yourself and how you self-define and self-describe really fuels, everything else in your life. And so I'm so curious how just the journey to get to the powerful person that you've became today and that you're still becoming, and like what that looked like, man, and how you kind of went about overcoming some of those maybe those limiting beliefs, insecurities. I'm very curious, man, talk me through that process of kind of breaking out of that shy kid and where Zach Jones really started to really come into his own and understand who he was and what he wanted.
Yeah, good question. So when I say shy, I was shy, man. When they call your name in class and you have to say here, I was so afraid to say here. I mean, that's how shy I was.
Oh,
I
wow.
had this crazy amount of social anxiety. Really had a hard time putting together words. Was always just afraid to use my voice, and I think that comes down to like the home life I had at the time. And not to downplay everything about my home life, I still have parents that love me and they're still alive today. I'm very grateful for them. But there was a lot of things that I would do differently as a parent. Of course, everyone would say that, right? So, but really got bullied a lot in school. Honestly, got picked on ever since I remember when I was in third grade. Every kid was outside playing and no one would play with me. I just have these memories of this stuff, and they would always like make fun of me when I was such a young boy. And then growing up, I was starting to I was really into sports, and I was into sports even like at a young age, like in the second grade. It's when I remember I picked up basketball, and I just fell in love with it and really got obsessed with it and just worked really hard in basketball. And then I eventually started playing football. And so it was growing up. So I was becoming more and more athletic. So it was the cool thing to be athletic, of course. However, I still struggled socially. I still struggled talking with people. And, I remember getting picked on even like my sophomore, junior year, senior year in high school. But I think it was starting to take a pivot about my senior year because I was creating this separation from the people I was playing ball with because I was just working harder than all these guys. And I kept putting this work. And over time, success is a compound effect of doing the right things over and over for a long period of time. And I just slowly, and without even realizing it, I was just putting in positive, good things good work in on a daily basis. And that all started to compound. I was somebody that I was playing football in high school. I was 6'4". I was a skinny kid. Going into my junior year, I was 160 pounds. I ran a 5'2" 40. By the end of my senior year, I was 200 pounds. I got my 40 down to 4'7". So almost about 2 years of just training my butt off, man. And that I had this desire to play Division I football. However, I still was not at that level yet, even though I was working my butt off to get there. So I did get a scholarship to play at a small school in Springfield, Missouri, Evangel University. And I played there for 2 years, and I just kept that same work ethic with me. And after 2 years of playing ball there, I now finally have that opportunity to go play Division I football. So I went to, there was a couple opportunities to play, a couple different schools that, recruited me, but I decided to go to UL-Lafayette. And then I'm telling you, man, I was working so hard. I had to sit out my that whole first year being at Louisiana due to the NCAA transfer rules at the time. And I was already standing down in practice. By spring ball, they were naming me the starter. They actually put a scholarship in my account because I came on as a preferred walk-on. And they were telling me how, like, I'm going to be an all-conference and have the potential to be all-American. In my mind, my goal was the NFL because I just knew the progression I was making. Anyways, suffered what was my 5th concussion. When that happened, they said this was the worst concussion they've ever seen. I threw up every day for a month. And just like that, my football career was over. So really, really tough. That led into a deep depression. You know, it led into old addictions that I had, which led into me actually almost committing suicide, just to get real with you guys. But by the grace of God, like I said earlier, I'm just honored to be here. He kept me here, and I actually know who I am, but I also know whose I am. And so now today I have a real estate business. I actually had a real estate sales business that I started up. So I had to really pivot my whole mindset, my shift. I was getting really good athletically, but I knew nothing about business. So basically started from scratch, but took that work ethic that I had, carried over to the business world. And that again starts to compound daily habits. Now I'm reading books, personal development. I get obsessed with this stuff. And you just keep compounding. And then you eventually get to the point where by the age of 25, by the grace of God, I can sell my equity of my sales business. So now I have a full-time agent attraction business, named the company 20,000 Agents LLC. And we're looking to bring on 20,000 agents worldwide with our amazing, fast-growing brokerage, eXp Realty. And that's my story right now. And I also have a beautiful bride, Brittany, and we have 2 amazing puppies, and we're planning on having kids in the near future.
Wow, man. It's so cool, Zach. Hearing your testimony, I appreciate the vulnerability that you've, really been able to have and sharing your story. And I think there's so many powerful things in there that I really just want to touch on real quick. It's just so crazy. I see this all the time, and it's similar to you growing up as, you have that identity as an athlete because you're one track minded. If you're not good at school and you're good at sports, you kind of just start to adopt that one track minded. Oh, I'm an athlete. This is how I succeed. This is how I achieve my success. And I think what people who maybe don't play sports and people who do play sports can attest to is that when that's gone, that's why being the athlete is such a weak identity, because it can be taken away from you. The identity statement that you said in the beginning, that's stuff that can't be taken away from you, right? You embody that every day, regardless of whether you're an athlete, regardless of whether you own your own business or you don't own your own business. Like, that is who you are. And so it's just so powerful, man. And so amazing that you were able to channel all these amazing disciplines and focus and commitments that you got from sports, but were able to really reform your identity into something deeper than an athlete. So if you don't mind, man, I would love you to talk a little bit more about what kind of overcoming that depression, man, what kind of that process looked like for you in terms of being able to understand that, your athletic career was over and you had to move past that identity, and really just how you went about that.
Yeah, I found someone in football, and that was my problem. And I was one guy that said, that's not me. Like, I could live without it, but unfortunately that was me. And, yes, I have a lot of good discipline habits that I came back to, but for a couple of years after it was over for me, I struggled. I struggled hardcore. I remember this summer, I went back home to work for my dad. He does air conditioning work, so I was in attics and crawling underneath houses, and I just remember, seeing my boys on Sports Centers, getting, featured for their off-season workouts. I'm like, man, this just sucks. But and that's where that led into, because I say, success is a compound effect of doing the right things over and over. But you do the negative things over and over, it just creates more, like drama creates more drama, right? So more negative creates more negative. So I really had really bad habits for a while there. But I really started to take a turn when I found something, real estate. That's really when I saw myself pivoting in the right direction, because that's what led into my first ever personal development book. And I read that, and then I read another book, and then I'm like, okay, this is the first time I'm ever reading books. Like, this is actually pretty interesting, because it's not like school. I'm actually working on myself, not, working the system. So that led into, watching YouTube videos of something I'm interested in. So that got me going the right direction. But at the same time, it wasn't sustainable, man. It's really when and it's still fairly recent, when I kept doing all these right things, but there was still no fulfillment from it, man. And I was progressing each year and starting to make decent money, and still wasn't finding this fulfillment. The fulfillment started to take place when I really devoted my life to Christ. When I decided it's not a religion for me, man, it's a relationship. And I went all in on this relationship where now I have this burning desire. So when I say I know who I am and I know whose I am, that changed everything for me, bro. And that's when really things started to shift for me. And now I have clear vision and I know exactly where I'm heading. And, obviously I'll go wherever God takes me. But yeah, dude, it's hard to explain, but if you get that part, that whose I am part down, it's life changing, bro.
That's so good, man. I'm so big as well on the relationship over the religion, because I think what happens is we have so many people who are just so, whether it's you feel like you were burnt by the church, you had a bad church experience growing up, or you had, this bad inflection point in your life where you blamed, a higher power, and therefore you're not connected to God. So if you don't mind, talk a little bit, man, about what it meant to be in relationship with God versus religion, and how, and we'll get into the impact that that's had on the other areas of your life.
Yeah, man. So religion was, for me, you feel like you have to do the right things. You have to do certain things the right way. But honestly, it was like, for me, I was going to church 2 or 3 times a month, which is, good on paper, but that's all I put in. A relationship is when you're having a conversation, you're worshiping, man. You're like, you're in the word daily, and I'm praying to God, just allowing him to speak to me and learning how to hear him better and stuff like that. So it's a one-on-one relationship on a daily basis. I mean, think about it, man. If I'm married to my wife and I only want to spend time with her 3 times a month, it's not going far. Like, yes, you kind of have something there, but it's not much of a relationship. A relationship is devotion, man. I'm devoted to him, and I understand that he's first, and then everything else follows. And when you put him first, man, everything else does typically follow pretty nicely.
I love that, man. It makes sense when you think about it like that and you explain it the way you did, because, what happens if me and Zach are friends? We may have a relationship and we might only see each other, or talk to each other a few times a year. Our relationship's not going to be that strong, right? It's like most people's, how they go to church, they go on the holidays, or they do it to like punch their ticket to what they think is heaven or whatever. Right. But relationship, like the more I talk to Zach, the better relationship we're going to have. Right. So it's like the more that you can have a genuine relationship with Christ, with God, with, a person to person, the better you're going to feel about that relationship. And so I think that's really cool that you kind of broke down the example. So what did that look like for you, man? What did getting into a relationship look like for you? What were some of the moments in your life that got you the clarity on that was the most important thing in your life? And really just what did that path look like for you?
Yeah, 100%. So I've always known God. I've always been in the church, but half-ass, dude, like just half-ass. And when I decided to go all in, that's when spend the daily time, understanding the word, understanding what God's telling me. It really happened when I took a pivot. I was invited to go to this John Eldridge Wild at Heart basic. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him, but if you have not read his book, I highly recommend it. Wild at Heart, John Eldridge. It's good, man. But he had like this little 2-day event. It was somewhere middle of nowhere in Arkansas, and my buddy was like, he's like telling me I have to go to this, and I'm like, man, I can't do it. It's like I have to work for these 2 days. He's like, no, you don't, man. Like, this is more important. And basically, I told him no. He's like, dude, I'll buy your ticket. You just come. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I was like, when I got there, man, I was hearing the word in a totally different way. And And again, just not to get too detailed there, read the book, you'll understand what I mean. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's when I was first introduced to the relationship versus religion. And then, so my head started spinning, but it wasn't like I was like transformed or anything, like just from the two days there, but it got my mind going. And then I went to the CEO of Your Life event that's hosted by Steve Weatherford and Riley Meek. It was a couple months after, and it was in December. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's when things just started really clicking for me. And then I joined this tribe that you and I are both part of, King's Council, which are led by those two guys. And there's so many great men and women. We call them kings and queens, and just champions on fire for God. And this just amazing tribe that now I had access to all these people that, I never really had. So it's been nothing but acceleration growth over these last 5 months. And like, so yeah, I guess it started in October. I finally gave up my 13-year plus porn addiction in November, which was a huge breakthrough. Had a sex addiction back in 2016 through 2017. So a lot of overcoming things. And I guess I was doing a lot of good things before that, but at the same time, I was allowing good to be the robber of my best. Man, I'm now living my best life.
Man, it's so powerful, Zach. And again, just how vulnerable and open you are, man. And I know that was really, not only was that moment the catalyst for you in terms of your faith and really stepping into relationship and out of religion, but I also know, and I would love you to talk a little bit more about just the catalyst and the trajectory that took, not only your relationship, your business. I really would love for you to talk about, in December when you kind of committed yourself to God and became in relationship, and you joined this King's Council. Talk about where you were at in your life before that, and then I know you touched on it a little bit, but then really where that took you from there, man, because I know that was a huge kind of shift for where you're at obviously today.
Yeah, so that's when I started learning more about this personal contract. So when you guys heard me at the beginning of this podcast, I said I'm a man of honesty, influence, faithfulness, and self-discipline from this King's Council tribe. And, we hear, Tommy, we can get around the right people at the right time, at the right place. The right things are always going to happen. Guys, I'm a living proof of this. I'm on the Powerful One podcast today because I got to meet Tommy Parker through alignment. And now I'm part of your tribe, your powerful tribe, man. And it's so many things will happen and go in your favor. I felt like I was being obedient to Christ when he was leading him in this direction to be around these group of, kings and queens. So yeah, it just accelerates your growth when you get around the right people.
When you started getting a relationship with God, what did that do to you in a business sense? Not only, like you said, the relationship sense, what did that also do to you having that personal contract and devoting to God in a business sense?
Yeah, and I'll take a step back real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'll say here is, I had that personal I created this personal contract with myself. I'm a man of honesty, influence, faithfulness, and self-discipline. A couple of those things I was living out. I felt like I was a faithful human being, and I believed in things were going to happen. But, I wasn't fully faithful to Christ. Self-discipline came into play. I wasn't in the word. You still have to be a little disciplined. You have to wake up early. You have to, I shouldn't even say have to, you get to, man. You get to wake up early. You get to read the word, but you still get to be disciplined to do that. And I did not have that prior. So discipline comes into play. Honesty, man. I was, I wasn't cheating on my wife when we got married. I was still watching porn. Wasn't, that was the less of the two evils. But before we got married, I did cheat on her. I cheated on her when we were dating, boyfriend, girlfriend. And 2016, 2017, I had a sex addiction, bro. And I never told her that. I didn't tell her that until December. So now I wasn't living as an honest person, even though I was still doing quote unquote good things. I just overcame that porn addiction, and I wasn't cheating on her when we were married. but I was dishonest that entire time. And so that came out, and the right people that we got connected with. And that's another story where we just amazing counseling with marriages and, acceleration with that process. Cause, it's still a journey. We're still working through things, but man, I've never been this intentional with my wife. We're going on weekly date nights. We're more in love with each other than we ever have been. And so there's just a lot of things I was not living, but decided I'm going to make this personal contract because this is who I see myself being. And now, by the grace of God, I can sit here and say that's who I am today. With all that being said, when you're doing those things, this is going to carry over into the business world. It's going to carry over in a positive way in the business world. It's going to carry over when I go meet with my 2 team members in the morning and they see this, light of fire bringing it, because I'm pouring the good stuff in, working on myself first, leading myself first so I can lead them better and setting the example. And naturally, when you grow there, you grow to go there, you have to grow there. And when you grow there, you're going there. So it's been amazing. So our business has taken off since joining the King's Council. Since all this has happened, I was able to sell the equity of my sales business because we just had this supernatural takeoff. And I'm an agent attractor now, so that was my full focus. So when I was in position to sell that was great. So I could focus fully on this, and now I'm here. Hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, man. So do you really attest that business success? It seems like it timed out pretty well with kind of having the personal contract and understanding who you were. Sorry, I just had to turn that fan off. Do you attest finding your identity and having that personal contract to the success you were able to have in business? Because it didn't seem like what really changed for you. Was that the biggest change to really be able to step in powerfully to your business? Was the alignment with God, these relationships, and also kind of understanding who you were?
Yeah. So like I said, Tommy, I've been doing a lot of good things. Again, it was allowing good to be the robber of my best. So when I started really working harder on myself, and it's not like I wasn't working hard on myself, but there was that one missing piece that I really wasn't working hard. I was working hard in the business. I was working hard on building financial success, whatever. But I was still slacking on the family side. I was still slacking on the spiritual side. And when you put those together, it's this one big harmony, right? So really the spiritual side is really what leads in everything else, because actually, I heard my pastor say this, the world is looking for all these answers, and all the answers are in one book, and that's the Bible, man. And when you start reading this Bible more and more, that's the ultimate self-help book. So what's happened, man, basically God has basically just put the super to my natural. So I've been putting all this natural energy into my business. And then now I'm allowing, all right, it's not going to be a good business. It's going to be a God business. So that makes that supernatural growth. And then when you're aligned with God, so many other great alignments are going to fall into place.
That's so good, man. I'm really curious, touching back to you being that shy kid, obviously now Zach and I are having a conversation here. Zach's doing almost weekly dinner seminars where he's speaking in front of a lot of people. He spoke just a few days ago in front of about 500 people online. So talk about what's really helped you be able to overcome the shyness, those kind of insecurities, being bullied when you were younger, to be able to step powerfully into what you could call yourself a speaker at this point. You're doing public speaking almost daily. So what has really been the biggest shift for you in terms of being the shy kid to now being the guy who can speak powerfully in front of groups of 500 plus people?
Man, I received that. Thank you. And that's it's crazy to hear that. I don't think anyone's ever told me that. So well, man, I'll say this, if you told me I was going to have a chance to speak with Ed Milet, Steve Weatherford, Riley Meek, Jesse Itzler, Dr. Oz, Michael Strahan on this one meeting, I would have thought you were crazy, bro. But I mean, that happened this week. And again, that supernatural part. So I'd say it's putting in a lot of good reps. I was very intentional with who I was working with. And this is something I've been working with on a very long time. Being in real estate, man, I was in real estate sales. And I was a shy guy going to real estate sales, man. And to sell real estate, you really need to learn how to talk to people. So really put myself in uncomfortable situations. So I got to the point where I'm learning to talk fairly well one-on-one with people. However, put me on a podcast like this or put me in front of anyone else, that's where that social anxiety was still coming back. I struggle with that until here recently where I joined the King's Council. So yeah, things can shift pretty quick. You talking to me on a Zoom thing like this, man, I couldn't talk, 5 months ago. However, I got with people who overcame the same, disbeliefs. I got connected with you. I got connected with guys like Cody G, Connor Mead. I believe he was on the podcast not too long ago, but he has a similar story like where we had to learn, and he basically just said, man, you just got to do it. That's really the best advice he gave me. He's like, you just got to put yourself out there. And I was actually telling people, hey, I'm uncomfortable doing this. So when I was telling people like Steve Weatherford that, or Scott Thomas, where they're doing events in front of like 100 people, of course, what do? They throw me out there to speak in front of 100 people. So I had to learn how to prep. And then I started doing it, man. And then every day I get a chance. So like this dinner seminar, man, I was so afraid to put that on, but I'm like, all right, let's just do this. Because you just start doing it, and then you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and the uncomfortableness goes away.
I love that, man. It's really, and you've even told, you shared this with me the other day, but it's really just like you said, getting those reps in every day. Like, something Zach does to get more comfortable, I know, is he'll send video messages of himself instead of a text. It's so cool to see, man, that you're just going for these action steps. You're getting these reps in, and really, like you said, just doing it, man, just putting in the time, putting in the reps to really do it. There's no better way, man, than just take those small steps. So I love it, man. What is the coolest thing or maybe the most exciting thing about where you're at now, man? Obviously, like you said, just sold the equity of your company, starting this new company. What is it? 20,000 you guys are trying to get?
20,000 agents LLC.
So talk to me about this, man. Talk to me about where you're at today, man. Just killing it in a business sense, real estate. I mean, just tell me about this. What excites you the most about where you're at?
Clear vision. That's what excites me the most right now, because I see this vision and I've got a game plan in place. And by the way, it doesn't happen overnight, man. With action comes clarity, right? So when I first started figuring out how to attract agents, it started with me just calling agents and EXP. So I'm with EXP Realty, right? So they put together a good video. So what I started doing is calling some agent friends. I was like, hey, watch this video. And then I was like, hey, I'll call you back here in a few days, get your feedback on it. Anyways, they wouldn't watch the video. So what I would do is I would call them, send them the video, and then schedule a follow-up call so I can ask them about the feedback of the video. They still weren't watching. I'm like, okay, screw this. I'm going to get them on a Zoom meeting. I'm going to play the video, and then they're going to be sold on this. And that wasn't working. So I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to be a salesperson, get them on a Zoom meeting, ask them questions, and then play the video. And they're like, that started working little by little. And I'm like, all right, screw this video. I'm going to just make the presentation myself. I watched this video so much. I know this stuff well. So started working on this presentation. Presentation really sucked at the beginning, but it just keeps getting better and better. And then next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I'm now starting to convert agents over. So putting a well-crafted presentation, asking good questions. And then now I'm like getting to the point where I'm like learning how to do this. However, you meet with 10 agents, that takes you 10 hours of work, 10 1-hour meetings. So I'm like, all right, there's got to be a better way. So I come across Riley Meek, and he's telling me to do group meetings, whatever, more dinner seminars. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a group Zoom meeting because I wasn't comfortable standing in front of people, but maybe I can get comfortable doing this. And then I started doing that, and that was starting to work, but still getting people to pay attention through a Zoom screen is not easy. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do these dinner seminars. And sure enough, man, all these reps I was putting in all this time where I was failing. By the way, Tommy, you're not a failure until you quit, bro. And I refuse to fail. So I'm just going to keep pounding. And now I can officially say I got this crazy vision of 20,000 agents, but now I have a game plan in place and I have all the reps and I'm only going to put more reps in. So I'm only going to get better and better. So now we're converting so much quicker. We're catching, amazing growth. I actually have 2 team members in the office working with me, just helping me just constantly improve these systems. And then all these other agents are helping me improve as well. So so when I cast the vision, it sounded crazy, but I was like, I was going to be crazy enough. I'm going to name my business this because I want everyone to know this is what I'm going to do. And while right now, here in 2021, I don't even have a fraction of that, bro. But it's a 5-year plan. And when you think micro fast, macro patient, things are going to happen. So 5 years sounds like a long time, but it's not a long time when I can retire with millions and millions of dollars of passive income every single month, thanks to this beautiful EXP model. By the way, if you're a real estate agent listening to this, schedule a call with me for real, because it's completely changed my life. And I'd love to show you how it can change yours.
Wow, man, that's incredible, dude. It's just so awesome. It just goes to like Zach Jones is the guy of reps, man. And I'm sure it comes a lot from you just putting in work in sports, and it's just carried over and you've consistently done it, man. But that's really what it is, man. When you have an idea or when you have this thing, you just have a hypothesis, you test it, and then you get feedback, and then you just go through that same process again. And then you find out you're just getting reps in, you're getting better at it. You're learning what works, what doesn't work. So, oh man, I love everything you just said right there, but just you getting those reps in and where you're at today and having that clear vision, man, is so powerful, brother.
I'll say this too, man. It's funny because I had somebody say, man, you're an expert. I'm like, you didn't see me getting laughed at 8 months ago. Every day, man. I refuse to give up. And now they're calling me an expert. Like, that's crazy, but that's just reality of it. I mean, Kobe Bryant, he was not the best basketball player in the world, or LeBron James, best basketball player in the world. Yes, he was, gifted in a lot of areas, but he's now considered the best basketball player in the world because he just kept putting the reps, and the longevity of his success kept compounding. So yeah, it's funny. So if you're in that season right now, I feel you, man. But don't give up, because you're just getting one step better, man. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, and that just accelerates that.
Wow, that's so good, man. You've dropped so much amazing advice and just been so vulnerable on this podcast, man. What is one more thing that you could leave with the listeners that's really stuck with you in your life? Maybe it's a piece of life advice that you could give them to wrap up the tone of this amazing podcast. What would that be?
Yeah, man. Being an entrepreneur, man, own it. But I'll say this, the best advice ever given to me is by one of my greatest mentors, Brian Buffini. He says, work hard on a job, you'll make a living. Work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. I heard that in 2018. In 2018, I was so broke. It was hard for me to believe it, but I kept saying it, kept believing it. 2019, still struggling. 2020, man, we take off. 2021, we're taking off. And I'm just always going to look back on that, is just believing that if I work harder on myself, man, I'm going to make a fortune. And it's not all about the financial aspect, but financial is basically a measuring stick of the work you put in, right? So, and it's really work I put in on myself that's allowed me to get there.
That's incredible, man. Where can people find you to check out your services, to check you out as a person? Where can they find everything that you're about, everything that you're doing?
Absolutely. So best way to reach me, go follow me on Instagram, Zach, ZACH .Jones 41. And then I also have a YouTube channel, links in my bio. I would appreciate any subscriptions. YouTube is still a learning lesson for me, but again, just putting those reps in. But yeah, so that's the best way. I'm on there every day. So feel free to send me a message, and I'd love to connect with you, and we can schedule a call through that.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to link all that stuff in the show notes below, guys. But Zach Jones, man, I appreciate you so much being on here, sharing your testimony with everybody, and sharing your power with the world, man. Thank you so much for being on here.
Absolutely. Love you, brother.
Awesome. Love you too, man. Guys, we are out.
Thank you guys so much for making it to the end. I really appreciate your support, not only for me, not only for Powerful One, but also all the guests on this platform, and just tuning in and being inspired and being powerful, man. So, thank you again if you watch this, and, excited for the future. Excited. It's been a great year for Powerful One. Excited for everything I have coming in the future, everything with the brand, everything with my personal brand, and just everything in general. So I just want to thank you guys again, and be sure to, share this if it inspired you, if it felt powerful, if you connected with it, share it with your friends, share the platform. Please go, if you don't mind, go subscribe on YouTube, go write a review on iTunes. All that stuff really means a lot. Thank you guys again, and be sure to stay tuned, because every week we are coming out with a new podcast episode. Stay locked into the page, guys. Thank you. Stay powerful.